Shabbat Shalom, everybody. It is wonderful to see you all. I sort of had visions this morning of myself and Elizabeth being the only two here. And at best I said, we're going to have to be in the chapel. Maybe we'll have a minyan, but stalwarts. Snow can't keep you away. Doesn't matter how much it is. So thank you. And for those of you who are joining us online once again, thank you as well for your support of being with us. So there is a midrashic text which relates to Shimon ben Gamliel. Now Shimon ben Gamliel, according to this midrashic text, asked his servant Tavi to go to the market and buy him something good to eat from the market. And the servant returns with a big tongue. Okay, tongue. Rabbi Shimon then said to him, go back to the market now and buy me something that's bad in the market. The servant goes to the market and he returns with a big tongue. So Gamliel was like, strange. He said, how can this be? He said, I asked you to buy me something good and you bought me this large tongue. And I sent you back and I asked you to buy me something that was bad and you also bought me this tongue. What's doing? And Tavi said, well, he said, in my opinion, the tongue has good and bad. When it's good, it has a lot of goodness. When it's bad, it's very bad. What did he mean? Well, if we read this week's Torah reading, think about it. We speak thousands of words every day. Words have enormous power. The Torah reading this morning is brings out a very poignant point. Words play a prominent part in the story of Joseph, which we began reading this morning. At the beginning of our parashah, we are told that Joseph was a nar. He was a 17-year-old, depends how you translate it, nar, lad. We're told he would help his brothers tend to his father's flock. But it wasn't enough that he was allowed to go out with the older boys. Joseph would actually tattle on his brothers, specifically the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, who were the handmaids. Now we don't know, the Torah doesn't tell us exactly what it was that the sons were doing, but whatever it was, Joseph couldn't keep it to himself. He had to go back and tell his father all the bad things that they were doing. Not the good things, not even everything, but only the bad things. The things that would most likely cause Jacob to be extremely angry at them. And of course, it would serve to make Joseph even more of the favorite son. And there's more words, or in this case, should I say lack of words. When Jacob made Joseph the amazing Technicolor dream coat, what was his brothers' reactions? Well, their reaction was, the Torah tells us that they hated Joseph so much, lo yochlu ledabro b'shalom. They couldn't speak about him in a friendly word. In other words, Joseph's hurtful words about his brothers caused them to lose their ability to say anything that was even remotely friendly to him. And of course, the situation deteriorates when Joseph begins dreaming about his greatness. There's nothing wrong with having delusions of grandeur. I know many people like that. But if you do, doesn't it make more sense to perhaps keep it to yourself? Especially if you know that the listener already resents you. But not Joseph. He couldn't keep his dreams to himself. He couldn't remain silent. And so what did he do? He tells his brothers all about his dreams. And what did that do? That made them hate him even more. I guess it's fair to say that by now his brothers had developed what we would call a visceral reaction to his words and would hate him as soon as he opened his mouth before he even said anything. And as for his second dream, the first one wasn't bad enough, didn't get a bad enough reaction, he had a second one. And Joseph was so emboldened by his ability that he even told his dream not just to his brothers, but now to his father. And Jacob, of course, rebukes Joseph. And as the Torah tells us, he certainly heard and remembered those words. Now, of course, you know the rest of the story, how Joseph's words ultimately led to his brothers wanting to kill him, and how Reuben interceded, and they ended up throwing him in a pit before selling him to the Midianites. And then, what did they do? They lied to the father, to Jacob, that Joseph had been killed by a wild beast. They took the coat, dipped it in the blood, showed the father, look, he's been killed. And so the lesson from this story is that words can be very hurtful, certainly when not controlled. They can lead to actions and consequences which we don't always anticipate, and which could even at times prove to be deadly. So, what is it about words that I can sort of tell you anything that you don't know already? Well, I'm going to try. Rabbi Joseph Telushkin, who you might remember because we actually brought him here some years ago to speak to a packed audience. Rabbi Joseph Telushkin wrote a book entitled Words That Hurt and Words That Heal. And in the first half of the book, Telushkin uses biblical passages, religious parables, and personal anecdotes to illustrate how language is too commonly used for negative purposes, for gossip, unfair criticism, and lying, to name just a few. But the second half of the book covers ways in which language can be used to create positive, healthy relationships and environments. Now, the concept is fairly straightforward. Our use of words is misplaced. And we always have to, therefore, be vigilant to use our words to heal and not to hurt. It's a flaw that we all have. Probably our biggest flaw as human beings. And that is probably why at his seminars, Telushkin often asks those in attendance, can any of you present here go for 24 hours without saying an unkind word about anybody? And invariably, someone at the seminar will shout, I can go for 24 hours and longer without saying an unkind word. To which Telushkin would respond, do you live alone? Of course, we might laugh, but I'm sure that all of us would be honest and admit that most of us could not go 24 hours without saying something perhaps hurtful or negative about someone else. I remember years ago when I was in my previous congregation, I actually posed this, and I've told you this before, so it's nothing new. I actually had posed a challenge to people in shul. I said, let's see if we can go 24 hours without, based on Telushkin, if we can go 24 hours without speaking Lashon Hara. That was the challenge. And the next Shabbat, one of my members came to me and said to me, Rabbi, I took up your challenge. And I almost made it until I got to the other end of the parking lot on Shabbat. So, at least he tried. I mean, come on. So, let me ask you, if you were asked to go 24 hours without having an alcoholic drink, and you couldn't, wouldn't we say that you have a drinking problem? I think you'd agree. We'd say this guy's got a problem. So why isn't it the same with speech? If we can't go 24 hours without saying something hurtful, why don't we say that the person has a hurtful speech problem? And the answer is, because not everyone has a drinking problem, so those that do stand out. But we all have a speech problem. So since we all do it, we all engage in hurtful speech so it doesn't stand out. Nobody thinks twice. And maybe that's why Rabbi Telushkin proposed a national Speak No Evil Day in the United States, which was adopted by the Senate, a Senate resolution in 1996. But just as powerful as the capacity of words to hurt is their ability to heal and inspire and lift up. There's an anonymous medieval text called Orot Tzadikim, which means the ways of the righteous. And in there is a quote about the evils routinely committed in people's speech. It says, with the tongue, one can commit numerous and great and mighty transgressions, such as informing, tale-bearing, mockery, flattery, telling lies. But then the author reminds us that with the tongue, one can also perform limitless acts of virtue. The tongue can certainly be a two-edged sword, either for good or for bad. And this is why our literature has so much on the power of words. And without sort of belaboring the point, here are a few examples. Psalm 34 says, "Who is the man who desires life and loves many days, that he may see good?" He goes on to say, "Keep your tongue from evil and your lips from speaking deceit." And each and every Amidah, we recite the Amidah 3 times a day, opens with those words, "Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi agid tilatecha." Open my lips so I may speak your praise, and closes with those words, "My God, keep my tongue from evil and my lips from lies. Help me ignore those who slander me." Notice here the symmetry. We ask that our lips be open to be able to speak, to praise God. But when we leave God's presence, when we're done praying, what do? We ask, in a sense, to remind us by closing our lips, by sealing our lips. So what is the message? The message is that our lips, our words, should only be used to inspire, to encourage, to praise, to help others, to heal, and not to hurt or insult. So how do we go about doing this? Using our words to heal and not to hurt. The late humorist Art Buchwald once wrote the following about saying a few kind words. And it's a story that I've told you before, but I think it's very poignant. He tells a story. I was in New York the other day and rode with a friend in a taxi. When we got out the taxi, my friend said to the driver, "Thank you for the ride, you did a superb job." The taxi driver, being a typical New York taxi driver, was stunned for a second, and then he said, "Are you a wise guy or something?" "No, my dear man," said my friend. "I'm not putting you on. I admire the way you keep cool in heavy traffic." "Yeah, right," said the driver, and he drove off. I asked him, what was that all about? And he said that, "I'm trying to bring love back to New York. I believe it's the only thing that will save our city." "How can one man save New York?" I asked him. "It's not one man. I believe that I made the taxi driver's day. Suppose he has 20 fares. He's going to be nice to those 20 fares because someone was nice to him. Those fares, in turn, will be kinder to their employees or shopkeepers or waiters or even their own families. And eventually the goodwill could spread to at least 1,000 people." Now that isn't bad. "But you're depending," I said, "on the taxi driver to pass your goodwill to others. What happens if he doesn't?" To which my friend said, "I'm not depending on it. I am aware that the system isn't foolproof. So I might deal with 10 different people today. If 1 out of that 10 I can make happy, eventually I can directly influence almost 3,000 people." So I said to him, "You're some kind of nut." And we just went on and on our way. Now, if nothing else, Remember the title of Rabbi Telushkin's book. Remember that words can hurt and words can heal. Remember that words can hurt even when you don't intend them to hurt. You have no intention of hurting somebody, but nonetheless it hurts. As the old British wartime adage goes, careless talk costs lives. And the Talmud relates in the same, Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachami, why is the evil tongue called a thrice-slaying tongue? And the answer being is because it kills 3 people. The person speaking, the person spoken to, and the person being spoken about. It may not kill them physically, but it's certainly character assassination. So remember the story of Joseph and what his words, even if uttered with the naivety of youth, led to. Remember that the one thing that separates man from animal is the power of speech. If you leave your speech going unchecked, you're no better than the animals. And so remember to use that power that you have, l'tova, for good. To use and speak only words that inspire, words that praise, words that comfort, and words that heal. And may God grant us the ability to do so continuously and know the difference between the two. Shabbat shalom.